Good afternoon. It's 1 minute past 12. So, how many people here have their own business? Okay, and I guess you all have a website, right? Do you remember those years when, probably about 14 years ago, when everybody was like, "Have you got a website?" That's a new thing. It's really exciting to reach out. Your business has to have a website. And that's probably what you got. Believe it or not, this is the Apple website, 1997. You wouldn't believe it, but they've gone leaps and bounds. The thing is, today you can get your website for free. You can make it yourself. You have tools like Wix, where basically you can design it with all they have all the tools online. So I find that website building and design has been commoditized a fair bit. And you understand through my presentation why I'm talking about websites when actually it says it's all about mobile. I see, because I've been in this business 23 years, that in the mobile business, 23 years, that now we're in the same gold rush moment. Everybody wants a mobile app. Every business wants a mobile app. And I want to challenge you today in thinking, do you really need a mobile app? And we'll go through that. But already, like websites, you've got tools now to do a mobile app yourself. You can do for free, or you can do for very little money. It doesn't require to have a PhD in computing, and the tools are improving all the time. I've just mentioned two here, which is one from Belfast on my right, which is the App Builder, which is a great tool launched 2 years ago. And the other one is from Google. Google actually partnered with a company in California called Duda Mobile. And if the Wi-Fi was a bit better here, we would have done a try, but you can try yourself. Go to the Go Mobile from Google, and you can just type your URL of your existing website, and it will transform it automatically into a mobile app. It sounds like magic, but the way they do it is basically look at how your site is framed and repurposes that for a mobile phone. It's not totally free, but it's very low cost. So businesses have developed mobile apps, and you probably have some of those on your smartphone if you have a smartphone. You have apps for consumers, and then you've got apps in the B2B environment. And I think this is probably where there is most potential in the B2B. But the big question is what for? What do we put? I have a lot of people coming to me and asking, we want a mobile app, but what should we have on it? And in the B2B environment, it's not as evident as it could be in the consumer environment. But the methodology is pretty much the same. Here I gave two examples. Caterpillar in the construction industry has an app for their customers or potential customers, as well as Sage. Sage may be a bit easier because it's a software company, so it's a software product, software service, slightly more easily to replicate on a mobile phone. But Caterpillar, how do you replicate a digger on your phone? Well, you see that actually it's not what it's about. So I think if you think that you should have a mobile app, you should really look at, are you in the consumer or in the business environment? And will you use your app for advertising, like websites were used at the very beginning? They were more or less brochure sites. Or will you use it for customer service? Or will you use it for other applications? But today I see a lot of mobile apps in those two areas. And there are other areas which now branch out into social networks and merge actually the whole lot to do just engagement. But You can also have, and you don't see that very often, because they are not necessarily open on the app stores, a mobile app for your own internal purposes, for the internal purposes of your organization. You can use it for training your staff if you have especially a larger organization, decentralized or present in different locations or even different countries. You can use it for spreading your corporate message. So instead of ease-in, just use the app. And also give access, that's probably more relevant for large companies, to a staff directory, know who's who in the zoo, basically. But internal news is probably the biggest type of usage for having an internal app. Now, you may have heard of the term private app stores. Siemens, for instance, very large company, 120,000 employees worldwide. They have their own private app stores where they basically develop mobile apps for their staff. Nobody else can have access to those because they are more or less on an intranet, or what we would have called intranet a few years ago, and you can only download it from there. Another company from Belfast again, Guardian24, which sells an app for the protection of lone workers. Their app, you can only have it from them. You won't find it on the app stores. But I can see more and more the web guys encroaching on the mobile guys, and the web world merging with the mobile world. And actually the approach is very similar. And it's despite the fact that a website, when you go to a website, you know that the website is the one of the company, of the organization that you're visiting. It's theirs. Whereas when you have a mobile app, it's on your smartphone. And it feels more like it's yours. And that's a big psychological difference between the two. And you have to keep that in mind if you go ahead and develop a mobile app for your company, that it will become a much more personal thing than a website could ever be. And that will have an impact on the content you put on and what you use it for. Any questions so far? Or? Right. I've listed about 10 questions that you should really ask yourself. I think the slides will be available, so don't worry if you don't take notes. I'm trying to go through the timing here. But basically, mobile apps are a bit complex because they are so dependent on this mobile technology, which is confusing because there are so many what we call platforms. So do you have an iPhone or an iPad, which we call iOS, for the type of operating system? Or is it an Android, which was created originally by Google, which is now being taken over by Samsung, more or less? Do you have maybe a Microsoft phone or a BlackBerry, or something that would be from the HP old times? And that will have an impact on the type of mobile app you develop. Think of the situation in which users will be interacting with your app. There is what we call one thumb or two hands type of usage. So when you use your smartphone, you can either scroll with one thumb and tap, or you can, usually in landscape format, use, not necessarily for gaming, but you can use the app for maybe enlarging or reducing. So it has an impact on how you're going to set your content and the type of functionality you're going to build into your mobile app. And today, I'll show you some stats later. Mobile the websites tend to be accessed from mobile devices more and more, and depending on some countries, even more than from a laptop or a desktop. So you have to keep that in mind as well. For instance, in the UK, you can see that mobile is still timid at about 15% of all accesses to websites, whereas in Nigeria, that's the opposite. It's 60% already. And Africa is obviously, you have the same numbers for Tanzania and Kenya and Ethiopia. Reason is because the terrestrial infrastructure of the internet is not as good as it would be in Western Europe or in the Western world or in Southeast Asia. But we are going towards that. When you may have heard of a new generation of technology coming called 4G. It's all about faster access, to an extent that you have the new operator 4EE offering you home broadband actually from the mobile. So they don't make any distinction anymore whether you have terrestrial or cable internet access or mobile, because the bandwidth is fast enough. So we will migrate from the top to the bottom within probably the next 2 years. Obviously, the cost is an issue. I mentioned earlier the app builder or Duda Mobile by Google. There are about 15 other tools. But if you want a very comprehensive app, you may have to put some more money on the table. And I've seen quotes up to £30,000 for a mobile app in the tourism sector. So the sky seems to be the limit. It depends on the number of features, the number of platforms you want, etc. The amount of work required, because the work is quite heavy. So who can develop my mobile apps? Not every web designer who can actually do mobile apps. We have a list on Mobile Monday. We've done actually a page, if you go on mobilemondaybelfast.org, and the second tab says NI organizations in mobile. And we have actually a list of all the companies in Northern Ireland involved in this business. So you can find them there. But you find that more and more web designers are migrating and now able to design mobile app. Not any, but we'll see the type. What platform? Do you go only for Android? Do you go for iPhone? Do you go for both? Do you go for the whole lot, including BlackBerry? It's a decision that you make depending on your audience. And your audience, if you're in the consumer market, may well be more Android users. If you're business, it may be more iPad users, and so on. And can I resource it? Because it's a bit like a website, or even worse, actually. You have your app done, you put it on the App Store, and that's just the beginning. You're going to have to update it. And assuming you've tested it and there's not too many bugs, you have to update the content. So there are ways to update the content. You can update on the fly. So every time your users open the app, the content is refreshed, and that's fine. Or you have new versions that increase the usability, and in that moment you need to resubmit it to the App Store, and you need everyone to download it again. That's something that you have to keep in mind, because every time that will cost you money. But you will not be able to keep an app and just leave it there for 2 years. How do I measure the return? That's probably getting better because of companies like Google again, or another one called Flurry Analytics. A lot of analytics are getting better now and giving you precise feedback on how often is the app open, for how long, what areas of the app are used, on what device, and so on. So just more than the number of downloads. And how can I market it? Because you'll find that if you want more than just your customers using it, the big challenge is also to make people aware. There's currently 1.5 million apps on the App Store from Apple and the Google Place, the Android market. 1.5 million. So your app will be 1 in 1.5 million. That's roughly the chance of being discovered if you don't do any promotion about it. Now, a big gripe I have often with companies, they don't think enough of engaging the audience, and they try too much to push their product or their service through the app. Here's an example of Nike has devised an app for women interested in sports. It's called the Training Center. And all the app, there's nothing about any equipment sold by Nike. It's all about you, the user. It's about keeping track of your own physical training and how you progress through it. And there's another one for men called Boom, Nike Boom. And it's under the whole umbrella of Nike Plus, which this one is sold with shoes specifically. But that is a good example, I think, of an app that is engaging. Everybody knows that's from Nike, but it's not in your face all the time. And that's actually very useful if you're into sport. Now, let's complicate things a bit. There are two types of apps, actually 3 or 2.5. You've got what we call the web apps, and then you've got the native apps. The native apps are those that were created originally by Apple in 2007. And then came Android, and then BlackBerry. And they are apps that are developed from the beginning to work on one platform specifically. All right? And the beauty of them is they can be used offline. So if you're in an area that has no connection whatsoever, you can still open the app and do things that the app allows you to do. About 2 years ago, a new type came up, which we now call web app. And they are actually, imagine it's a kind of a door that when you click on, or actually when you tap on, it opens and connects straight to the internet. And there, in the cloud, you've got the whole app waiting for you with, again, the things that you can do with an app. But it doesn't work if you're not connected. So that's a big difference. And it's written also with different technologies. Then you've got hybrid apps, which are basically web apps that have modules of a native app. So some modules can be used offline, but most of it you have to be connected. And then you've got .mobi, which actually has been around for quite a long time. Sometimes you see, or used to see, because it's not advertised very much anymore, but you have http://mobi. And then the company name .com. And those are apps that are a bit like the web apps, and they are configured in a way that is really readable on a 3.5-inch screen. And then you've got this new thing coming up, which is only last year. And I know of only 2 agencies in Belfast that are using it, and it's called responsive design. And that's for your website. And here now we're closing the loop between mobile and web. And it's a, I'll try if the connection is good enough. If I show you, you'll understand straight away what that is. So this is one of my clients in Dublin, and this is a website that looks pretty normal, right? But when I imagine now I'm going to access this website on a tablet, so the tablet is about that size, the website is reconfigured. If I access the website from a phablet, which is a mix of tablet and phone, it's reconfigured again. And if I access it from a web phone, from a smartphone, which is roughly that size, it reconfigures again. I don't lose anything of the navigation. Everything is still there, but it's reconfigured automatically depending on the size of the screen of the device I'm using. So every time as the screen gets bigger and bigger, I get more visual content. Now that is actually the biggest revolution in website design of last year, and more companies are asking for that. I can see it as a big threat to mobile apps, as a matter of fact, with the other threat that came up last week. And that's one thing that I finished this presentation this morning, because in this environment, it changes almost every week. You've got something new, so you've got to know what's happening. But responsive design, to me, is fabulous, as a matter of fact, because it makes your site look really good on any device, on any screen. But that's a web app type. If you don't have connection, you won't be able to access it. So you have to keep that in mind as well. For those who like technical stuff, I've just put a slide, so if you download it, you'll have basically the types and then the pros and cons, or the features that one give you over the other. And web-centric apps, you can go online, you'll see examples, .mobi, and responsive design is basically, that's how it evolves from smartphone to tablet to netbook to very large monitor. Right, last week, which was, I think, on Friday, Facebook came up with something that, again, is going to change everything, most probably. And I'm glad, actually, we have this event today and not last Monday, otherwise we would have missed half of the story. It's called Facebook Home, and basically, it's a wrapper. So imagine you've got your phone, your smartphone, with all your apps on it. And Facebook basically is creating something that wraps around and hides everything and makes it the way they want. And their view is that actually a mobile phone and the interaction you have with it should not be about apps, it should be about people. So you should have all the stuff that matters about your friends and the people you follow on Twitter or the people you on Facebook. And I encourage you to go online and see basically what it's all about. Just go to facebook.com/home. And you have a couple of movies there that describe basically what they intend to do. I expect that to catch up, because you've got 1 billion people on Facebook, and a lot of them have, about 700 million have smartphones. For those who don't mind, give up their interface, in a sense, to Facebook, that's actually brilliant. For the others, it's a nightmare because it's very difficult to get off. So, but that's gonna obviously, I expect a response from Google via Google Plus for that, because it's a blow. It doesn't mean that the apps are disappearing. They'll still be on your phone, but it'll be a lot more difficult to find, because Facebook will kind of decide what app it opens when you want to do something with the people that you have through your Facebook account. So I was going, before Facebook came up, I was going to challenge as well about, do you really need an app, frankly? Do people really use apps more often? You may have heard that only a few number of apps that you have on your phone are used often. Well, here are the stats. Now, that's US, but it reflects pretty much the UK anyway. It's going up from 7.2 to 7.9 apps, so roughly 8 per day on average. I don't know, who uses more than 2 apps per day? Show of hands. Right. More than 5 per day. 5 different apps per day. Right. And more than 10. Yeah, it's difficult, but apart from those I'm testing often, I barely use more than 4 or 5 anyway. And the long-term users, those who've had, let's say, from the first generation of iPhone, are still keen to try apps. So for me, that means that never get excited by the number of downloads you'll have about your app, because you'll have a lot of people who just download to try. They read about it somewhere and they'll have it. But what counts is whether they will be using it or not. Also, another stat that is showing that probably mobile apps, until Facebook came last Friday, is becoming more relevant. It's that web browsing is lower than mobile browsing. So, as a conclusion, you need your app to be discovered. That's basically how does it stand out from a crowd of 1.5 million mobile apps. But it needs to be also available. Do you want to cater only for those who have an iPhone, or those who have an Android, or for everyone? And if you say, well, for everyone, but at the lowest cost possible, then you may want to go the web app way. It has to be usable. You have to do a lot of testing. You have to really engage a lot of people around you to test before you submit it, because reviews can be really bad, and people don't have much patience on their smartphone. So if they write bad reviews, it will limit the number of downloads you can have very quickly. But it has to be relevant. And if an app is a one-pony trick, it'll probably be open once, maybe twice, and then left to rot on your 4th screen. And engaging, and that's probably the best way to have your app being sticky. YouTube has actually managed that. They've defined a new generation. You may have heard Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation C, which is a new about content creation, has managed to have a sizable number of people who actually browse exclusively through YouTube. The only thing they do is go to YouTube, and their whole web experience is always through YouTube. That's what I call stickiness. So these are probably the 5 things to bear in mind. The first one is probably the easiest one, because you will have probably your own social media channels established, so you can push out quite a lot, but it's not enough to have it downloaded. It's not enough to have it open once. You want your customers or potential customers to use the app as often as possible to engage with your brand, to engage with your company.